This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
There are so many things that we just have in our mind and we assume that they're correct because we've heard them 100,000 times. We got to get rid of all those myths. If you've done a great job saving, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you use the right strategies. Most people just aren't aware of them.
You've worked hard your whole life to earn and save. Now you need a plan to make that money work hard for you.
So people that have sacrificed opportunities to spend money, they sacrificed by putting the money in that 401k. They've sacrificed by putting that money in a 529 college plan for their grandkids. Those types of sacrifices should go rewarded in the long run.
John is here to help you find solutions for your retirement.
There is a lot of pain and frustration felt by so many Americans. We thought we were getting a little bit of the break there in midsummer. Here we are. Seems to be that rocky road again in the Q4 season, which is normally a volatile time in the market anyway.
Sure.
And the hits just keep on coming. We did get those inflation numbers again. They did go down just a little bit.
But that didn't stop the market from absolutely cratering earlier in the week. They weren't that far off, guys, but this is where we are. It's a very uncomfortable period of time that we're in.
Yep.
We know that if the Fed chair, Jay Powell, if he keeps doing what he's promising that he's going to do, which is control inflation, guys, he will, I don't know what the word is, but he's basically going to decimate the current economic situation. And you can look back in recent history, you know, the most recent's been the 70s, but you can go back at different periods of time and look what happens when the Fed has very tight, controlled policies during periods of time when we have a fragile economy. Guys, it can be a very long-lasting recession. I hope that's not the case. But if you're praying and hoping and wishing for a soft landing, Jay Powell is out there to tell you, don't expect that.
Okay.
And remember, Heather, the one thing that we always know, you never fight the Fed.
Right. And we are here just trying to manage what is still yet to come. And you're not alone in your thought process, John. There's economist Steve Hanke.
Sure.
And he was recently telling CNBC he believes we're headed for a, quote, whopper of a recession next year because, according to him, the Federal Reserve Chair doesn't understand what causes inflation.
He has failed to tell us that inflation is always caused by excess growth in the money supply, turning the printing presses on, which we had, remember, starting with COVID in February of 2020. And that is why we are having inflation now. And that's why, by the way, we will continue to have inflation through 2023, going into probably 2024.
Now, he talks about the printing press that happened around COVID.
Only recently.
But you and I have talked about here on this radio program about how this goes way further back than
Heather.
2020, y'all.
So what Steve Hanke just said, and I agree with a portion of this, but he's a little short-sighted. Think about it, guys. We printed an unbelievable amount of money, over $5.6 trillion we printed after the COVID debacle. And by the way, the printing presses aren't still shut down yet. They're still printing some things.
Right.
But understanding that, but that is just the most recent issue. When you go back, we have done quantitative easing since roughly 2010, 2011. What did that mean? It means we were printing money because of 2008, the last major recession that caused all kinds of problems based on real estate, right? Based on banking structure, based on our central bank health. We've been printing money since 2010 or 11. That may have caught up to us, and then we printed $5.6 trillion in just the last couple of years. Guys, this printing press has been going for substantially longer, and we're just now starting to see the aftermath of that. Now, what does that mean? Well, this full market cycle may have not only run its course, it may start something very different that we've not seen in a long period of time. Now, I'm not saying that things are doom and gloom, not even remotely close to that. But what we have to understand is, I think that the Fed chair is very aware, and this is a little bit against what Hanke was just saying.
Okay.
I think the Fed chair is very aware of where inflation comes from. But having said that, the problem is that if we wanted to ensure that our country did not default or falter during COVID, what else could they have done? Basically, they pressed the go button, or was it called? There was one of the easy button.
Okay,
there you go, Heather.
From the
Federal Reserve, and along with the president, says, "Hey, let's just go press the easy button and flood the world with all this money." And so people started doing what? They started buying junk. More and more and more and more and more junk. They started fixing up their homes. They started putting things on credit cards. They started buying used cars like there was never going to be another car market ever again in life. And now we're at this point, and what the Fed chair realizes is, I know exactly what happens with inflation. Inflation is when you erode buying power, not just for those that own the market, for everyone. Because guys, think about it. If we go to the grocery tomorrow, and we used to pay $20 for some items at the grocery that we had to have that week.
Yeah.
And now instead of $20, it's $50 to buy that exact same necessary stuff we have to have at the grocery, whether you have money in the stock market or not. Doesn't that hurt us all? Mm-hmm. It absolutely does. And so what Jay Powell is realizing and explaining to us is that he does not have any other arrows in that quiver. All he's saying is, guys, this is it. This is what you've left me with. And I am going to be a good steward of our country. Mm-hmm. But here's what he's also saying. It's going to absolutely, potentially destroy the current economy. So guys, we got to be prepared for this. We have to be prepared for this, because what happens if interest rates keep rising? Then most of us are going to keep losing money in bonds. Well, number one, that's not good.
Right.
Number two, if the Fed keeps hurting the economy, well, that's going to keep hurting our stocks. Oh my gosh. So there's both sides of most people's portfolios. Well, all of a sudden, if interest rates keep rising, is your home worth as much as it was last year? Mm-hmm. Well, sadly, it's not. Right. Why? Because someone has to borrow money at 6% or 7% a year instead of 2 or 3. So does that mean that they can offer you as much money for your home if you were to sell it? No, they can't. They got to offer you less. So now we have a housing issue on top of that. Guys, what we're seeing right now is the very simple makings of why recessions can last a while. And I'm not doom and gloom. I'm not at all pumping doom and gloom in anything. I just want us to be very aware, because we need to be cognizant what's happening and what can we do about it. Because Heather, there are ways we can fix this. There are absolute ways we can fix this. Number one, if you had dead money, if you've got money sitting out there because you're so worried about losing money in the market that is earning less than 2 or 3 or 4%, guys, that's dead money. If you're not at least earning the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% that inflation's running, you're losing money. You might be doing it safely in that bank account, but you're still losing money, even if it's safe, okay? Safely. There are ways that we can at least get close to catching up to that inflation rate with 100% safety and sometimes 100% liquidity. But we have to understand where we start. That's number one. Yep. Dead money. Get it out of your portfolio. Number two, people have been taking a lot of risk because the market's been going up for the last 12 years until now. And what I typically say is, hey, things are pretty good until they're not.
Right.
And right now, Jay Powell's telling you, I'm going to make sure that if I have to do it, I'm going to wreck this economy. Guys, take note. You never fight the Fed. Ever, ever, ever. Never, ever fight the Fed. You will lose that battle. So if he's telling you that and you're going to retire in the next 3 years, understand, could we be down for the next 3 years? Absolutely. How is that any different than 2000, 2001, and 2002? Right? How's that any different for different pockets of time in the 70s, pockets of time in the 50s, or frankly, pockets of time in the 1920s to 1950s? Guys, we've seen this many, many times. Can we potentially have a long period of time where the market just isn't so great? Of course we can.
Right.
So how do we fix this? Number one, get rid of dead money. Number two, understand our risk with those equities. Am I telling you to get out of the market? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, some of you, if you got out of the market now, you could destroy all the growth you've had for decades.
Right.
Please don't do that. But you need to get a second opinion from a skilled fiduciary. Where are the easy ways to put buffers on your portfolio or guardrails or safety nets so that you can stay in those great positions but trim those losers before they run you ragged, before they absolutely cause you to lose too much money and you flip out, right? And the last thing, Heather, if we want to survive a recession and we want to survive and still be able to retire in the next 3 years or so, or we're already retired, you have to have an ironclad income strategy. It has to be able to be impervious to market performance and interest rate movements. If you don't have that, guys, unfortunately, you don't have an income plan at all. So if you can get those 3 things in line, number one, get rid of dead money. Number two, understand your risk so that you can put in the safety nets at the right places at the right times. And number 3, understand how your income can be impervious to not only market moves, but interest rate moves. If you can do those 3 things, you will survive this recession pension, potentially, no matter how long it lasts. And the secondary part is you will live to fight another day.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Inc. is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. It does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Jonathan Hicks, insurance license number 548962.